information that you knew?
I don't think we can say that we had some special insight to the terrorist network, otherwise I'd be under arrest myself. The truth of it is...
But it is a coincidence.
It's a coincidence, and it's a spooky coincidence. Our scenario was very similar. It wasn't totally identical, but it was based on bombs going off to the time, the locations, all this sort of stuff. But it wasn't an accident in the sense that London has a history of bombs, and the reason why our emergency services did so well and prepared probably better than any other city in the world, sadly, they have to be. So it wasn't exactly rocket science or totally out of the pale to come up with that scenario, unusual though it did, so we had to stop the exercise.
This is Mark Honigsbaum reporting from the London Hilton Hotel opposite Edgware Road Station, where we believe there was an explosion this morning under the carriage of a train. I've been speaking to survivors all morning. People were evacuated, first of all, to Marks and Spencer's beside the underground, and then across the road to the London Hilton, where there are some people with very, very bad injuries. There was a woman who got cuts and burns to her face and is being wrapped from head to neck in.
Service said they've treated 45 patients with serious and critical injuries, burns, amputations and fractured limbs before moving them to the nearest hospital.
We just pulled out Edgware Road, and next thing I know there's a large flash of light. Felt a burning sensation on my hands, put my hands up to my face.
For 5. John Loftus is a terrorism expert and a former prosecutor for the Justice Department. John, good to see you again. So, real quickly here, have you heard anything about this Hassan Hussein who just picked up in Rome? Know that name at all?
Yeah, all of these guys seem to be going back to an organization called Al-Muhajirun, which means the immigrants. It was the recruiting arm of Al-Qaeda in London. They specialized in recruiting kids whose families had emigrated to Britain, but who had British passports. And they would use them for terrorist work.
So a couple of them now have Somali connections?
Yeah, it was not unusual. Somalia, Eritrea, the first group, of course, were primarily Pakistani. But what they had in common was they were all immigrant groups in Britain recruited by this Al-Muhajirun group. They were headed by, you know, the Captain Hook, the Imam in London, the Finsbury Mosque, without the arm. He was the head of that organization. Now, his assistant was a guy named Aswat, Harun Rashid Aswat.
Aswat, who they picked up. Yeah.
Aswat is believed to be the mastermind of all the bombings in London.
On the 7/7 and 7/21, this is the guy, we think.
This is the guy, and what's really embarrassing is that the entire British police are out chasing him, and one wing of the British government, MI6, or the British Secret Service, has been hiding him. And this has been a real source of contention between CIA,
Hold on, John.
Justice Department, and Britain.
MI6 has been hiding him. Are you saying that he has been working for them?
Oh, I'm not saying it. This is what the Muslim sheikh said in an interview in a British newspaper back in 2001.
So he's a double agent, or what?
He's a double agent.
He's working for the. So he's working for the Brits to try to give them information about Al-Qaeda, but in reality, he's still an Al-Qaeda operative.
Yeah. The CIA and the Israelis all accused MI6 of letting all these terrorists live in London, not because they were getting Al-Qaeda information, but for appeasement. It was one of those, you leave us alone, we leave you alone kind of things.
Well, we left them alone too long then.
Absolutely. Now, we knew about this guy Aswat. Back in 1999, he came to America. The Justice Department wanted to indict him in Seattle because him and his buddy were trying to set up a terrorist training school in Oregon.
So they indicted the buddy, right? But why didn't they indict him?
Well, it comes out, we've just learned that the headquarters of the U.S. Justice Department ordered the Seattle prosecutors not to touch Aswat.
Hello. Now, hold on. Why?
And that's, well, apparently Aswat was working for British intelligence. Now, Aswat's boss, the one-armed Captain Hook, he gets indicted 2 years later. So the guy above him and below him get indicted, but not Aswat. Now, there's a split of opinion within U.S. intelligence. Some people say that the British intelligence fibbed to us. They told us that Aswat was dead, and that's why the New York group dropped the case. That's not what most of the Justice Department thinks. They think that it was just, again, covering up for this very publicly affiliated guy with al-Mujaroon. He was a British intelligence plant. So all of a sudden, he disappears. He's in South Africa. We think he's dead. We don't know he's down there. Last month, the South African Secret Service come across the guy.
Yeah, now the CIA
He's
says,
alive.
oh, he's alive. Our CIA says, okay, let's arrest him. But the Brits say no again?
The Brits say no. Now, at this point, 2 weeks ago, the Brits know that the CIA wants to get a hold of Haroon. So what happens? He takes off again. Goes right to London. He isn't arrested when he lands. He isn't arrested when he leaves.
Even though he's on a watch list.
He's on the watch list. The only reason he could get away with that was if he was working for British intelligence. He was a wanted man.
And then takes off the day before the bombings, as I understand it?
Yeah, and goes to Pakistan. The Pakistanis arrest him.
They jail him.
They jail him. He's released within 24 hours, back to southern Africa, goes through Zimbabwe, and is arrested in Zambia. Now the U.S., we're trying to get our hands on this guy.
John, hang around. I have so many questions now. Gotta take a quick
this is
break
a bad
here.
one.
18